News Radio 1290 WNBF. It's 10:30 on a Wednesday morning. I'm Bob Joseph, and we welcome back to the studio Michael Vasquez, who's been running as a Republican candidate for Congress, planning to challenge the incumbent Republican, Richard Hanna, and the 22nd Congressional District. Mr. Vasquez, welcome back.
Oh, hello, Bob. It's good to be back again with you and all your listeners. Always enjoy this show.
Well, I know you've been with us several times over, I think it's been over a year. I can't recall the date of your first appearance, but you have joined us on many occasions talking about your concerns with respect to this area, New York State, and your concerns about the nation. So you've been very active and expressed your views on a lot of important issues that resonate with people here in the Southern Tier.
Yeah, across the entire district. It's been quite a time, and I wanted to come back here today because I'm making an announcement, and this is actually exclusive. No one else has known about this yet, but I wanted to come here because this is where one of the first places that I've actually had a chance to speak to the people. It's actually harder. It's actually harder now than I expected it to be. Obviously, there have been a lot of changes in this election over the last year. We've seen, most recently, Assemblywoman Tenney enter into the race, which caused everybody in the entire race to reevaluate what they were looking at. And in my reevaluation, I understand very clearly that a three-way race between Ms. Tenney, myself, and the incumbent Mr. Hanna winds up being a win for Mr. Hanna, because we fracture the vote. And that doesn't serve the people of the 22nd District. And all ego aside, it's a difficult decision, but when you separate your ego from the decision, the answer is, for me, to step out of this race, to put my support behind Assemblywoman Claudia Tenney as the consistent and clear voice representing the people, and to win the election for the people in the New York 22nd District.
Well, tell me a little bit about the thought process that went into coming up with this decision, because when we spoke yesterday about your planned announcement, you mentioned that it didn't come easily and certainly didn't happen quickly. No,
it's been something that I've been thinking about since I first heard Miss Assemblywoman Tenney say that she had interest. And looking at the scenario, looking at what's going on there, I've brought in a lot of attention. We know that in committee meeting after committee meeting, just the first time people have met me, they're sitting there and they're having 20-minute conversations and debates about whether or not they should support Mr. Hanna, because he doesn't represent the issues of the Republican Party or the individual people. So I know there is a desire and a need throughout the district. The question is, can I be the best representative, or can Assemblywoman Tenney? I lack a title. I'm not an elected official. And I don't have as much funding as I would like. And I'm a first-time candidate, which means I've made errors and I'm not as experienced. These are not bad things. These are things that I think don't hold me down. But at the same time, when we have the opportunity to have that clear, consistent voice with a record that is proven to show that she matches what people are looking for, as opposed to a candidate who fights the party and the public and flip-flops, I have to say it's better to support her than me, and I have to put my best interests aside of what would be my personal gain and say, no, that's not what I got into this for a year ago. What I got in is to help the people, because we're not being helped in Congress.
So do you intend to be actively working for Claudia Tenney in the next 2 or 2.5 months before the June primary?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. I want to clear up something that's been a rumor that some have put out there, a little whisper campaign. I'm not leaving the race. First of all, I haven't lost. I didn't lose. I am making a choice, and this choice is my choice. I actually contacted Assemblywoman Tenney to let her know my intention. She did not force me out of this race. nor did she ever ask me to do so. So this is my decision based on what I think is the best for the people. Now, if she asks me to help her out, of course I will. I will volunteer, just as I would for anyone I believe in, just as those who helped me get to this point. And I would ask anyone who supported me or is interested in me to take a look at Ms. Tenney and see that she and I have virtually the same opinions and views and stances on the issues that match the people. And I would say, put your support behind her, just as you would have done for me. So at the moment, the answer is no. And if she hears this and she'd like to give me a call about that, I'd be happy to help her out.
Have you spoken with Claudia Tenney?
Yes, I told her about my decision.
When did you inform her?
Yesterday. I was speaking with her yesterday about it before I spoke to you. And of course, I'm still going to be out and about. I want to also make that clear. I haven't disappeared. I'm speaking at a anti-New York SAFE Act rally on April 12th. I will appear here whenever I can, given the schedule. And I'm going to continue to speak about this because this is important, and I'm not giving up on anything. I'm just changing the way that I'm going to be approaching it.
What was Claudia Tenney's reaction when you informed her on Tuesday that she has one less potential opponent in the June primary as she works to strengthen her challenge against Richard Hanna?
Well, she, of course, appreciated the fact that I told her I would support her in any way that I could. So she was appreciative of that. She thanked me for the time and effort that I've put into this over the last year and in raising the attention throughout the district on what I would call a mediocre representative. And she gave me the best wishes going forward in all my endeavors. We didn't have an in-depth conversation. As I said, it's a difficult conversation. It's difficult for me right now. But the door is open, I felt, to be able to speak with her again. And she's been always very pleasant and straightforward with me. So I think she's happy. Anyone in that position would be happy to go forward and say, okay, I have one less obstacle, especially when it's a credible individual who's put in a lot of work. Makes it a little bit easier, of course, but the reality is it's easier because it's the benefit to the people.
Now, you and Claudia Tenney appeared recently together at a program in Endicott, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't that the gun rights program that was on Endicott's north side?
Yeah, I was at the Sons of Italy in Endicott. We were speaking against the New York SAFE Act. Actually, she was there, I was there, and Mr. Hanna sent a letter. Not a representative. He didn't show up. He knew about it as well. He sent a letter talking about his NRA rating, which, and if anyone disputes that, I have video of every single person who spoke. I'd be happy to point it out there. Not exactly a full-throated Second Amendment defense, but we had a great time speaking there.
Do you think that issue is one thing that that will make Richard Hanna vulnerable in the June primary?
Mr. Hanna has so many issues to make him vulnerable. It's amazing. And by the way, this isn't really a primary. There is no Democrat. That's another part of the reason why I'm stepping away, is there is no Democrat. This is the election. When whoever wins is the presumptive representative in New York, since there is no opposition. But to answer the question is, I believe that his stance on Second Amendment, his stance on abortion, the SAFE Act, the NSA, drones, military pensions, the budget, these are all issues where he's literally flipped what he said to the public and what he's actually done, where he's failed to complete or actually take action, and he has not spoken out publicly about it. Notice, he doesn't talk about the issues. He keeps a very low profile so that he can avoid talking about the issues and his record, and that's been consistent for the last, more than the last year that I've been around, since he's been elected. The same person who got elected because of the Tea Party and conservatives who abandoned them and now calls them extremists but they were the same thing he ran as in 2010. In 2014, he doesn't want to talk about them. Again, it goes to his history.
Tell me what you've learned as a candidate.
Wow, there's a lot of things. That it's one of the hardest things you can possibly do as a new candidate on the scene is to make people aware. It comes down to money to a certain extent. I mean, I've had commercials out. I've been across the media and across the district. But to reach 700,000 people effectively costs a lot more money. I was able to do it to a decent degree, but to do it better, to do it properly, costs money. Name recognition is very, very important, and while I have that, it could always be better.
Well, the reality is, when any candidate is going up against an incumbent who's been in office for more than one term, they have remarkable name recognition just because of the fact that they've been in the news for big and small things over a period of several years, and they also, as part of the office, they have a press operation, which effectively, I mean, certainly the main mission, in theory, of any congressional representative's press operation or a state official's press operation is to communicate with the constituents. Sometimes there's a fine line between what would be, shall we say, appropriate communications and something that looks very, very close to campaign flyers. And you look at, and I won't point specifically to Richard Hanna, but say, for example, Governor Cuomo's office has a press operation that churns out several press releases, news releases in print, videos, all sorts of things. Who knows how much money is being spent by that, and it's all our money, and it also helps to effectively strengthen him and makes it all the more difficult, for example, for Rob Astorino, who's in a position of launching a campaign right now against a guy who's got at least $33 million to spend against him.
Well, I can appreciate Mr. Astorino's position, because very much like Mr. Astorino, what I'm looking at is we have an incumbent who has such a bad record that they need a massive war chest because they need to spend 6 times as much to cover their bad record. And we're seeing that in both cases. But as much as it is name recognition, what is it name recognition for? Over 25% of the people that I've spoken to and throughout the district have no idea who Mr. Hanna is. And if you ask people what issues he stands for, that number increases even more. It's not that he's known for doing something, he's just known as an elected official. There's a big difference. He's not someone you can say, well, I listened to him as he stood up on the floor of Congress for this issue, because he doesn't.
Well, looking back at Richard Hanna's record, and you have certainly scrutinized it closely over the years since you announced that you were running as a candidate, and even before, what, in your view, has he done that is commendable?
He has successfully named a post office. He passed 2 commemorative coin bills. All of this was in 2010, 2011. So those were things that he actually did do. I do commend that he did half the job on the drones. He brought drone testing to New York State. So that increased some jobs, about 2,000 jobs, over the next 10 years approximately. And that's great. Too bad he didn't finish protecting the people's Fourth Amendment rights from those drones, or even having any concern about that. So I give him a half on that. He's made several votes against Obamacare, which in a YouTube video, which can be searched by anyone, he mentions that all his votes are ceremonial, and when his vote actually counted and he had to stand accountable to it, he voted with Democrats and voted against trying to repeal or replace it. So I would give him, if I had to give him a grade, I'd give him a D+.
Okay. I was going to ask you how you would grade him. You anticipated the question. So what's next?
Next, for me, I wouldn't. I'm a political commentator, as you know, for the last 7 years. That's been on hold while I've been running, and I'm going to continue to have that on hiatus until after at least the primary, once this race is decided at that point. But I'm going to be out speaking about this. Like I said, I'm on April 12th. I have it confirmed. I'm one of the speakers at a rally in Sayre against the New York Safe Act. I will appear everywhere that people allow me to. I know that it's a lot of media is not as popular to have someone on when they're not a candidate as when they are, but I'm going to try and do what I can to continue to speak about these issues. I mean, we need to improve the jobs, and we need to cut the corporate tax rate. We need to do a lot of things, and we need to speak about it.
Do you have any thought of running for any other office anytime in the near future?
I've had people mention things to me. At this moment, I've mentioned to them each time they brought it up that I'm running for Congress. At this point, I would say I want to focus my efforts on making sure we can have an accountable representative in Congress. Once we get past the primary, which I hope will be with Assembly Tenney, at that point I'd be open to hear what people have to say.
Michael Vasquez, thanks for coming back to Binghamton Now. We look forward to having you back and talking about the issues in the future.
I thank you for that.